Tonight's program of Fractured Flickers received such critical acclaim that it has been placed in the archives of the Television Academy of Arts and Sciences. So, of course, you won't be able to see it. Instead, here's another program, not nearly so good. 1, 2. We hear and see a great deal today about the well-known centers of world travel, London, Paris, Hawaii, Mexico. But this evening, Fractured Flickers begins a series of travel films about lesser-known lands, vacation spots which are just a little off the beaten track. Tonight, our subject is lovely Las Pulgas. Las Pulgas. Its very name conjures up visions of a land of mystery and enchantment and tells us something of what the eager traveler can find there. In English, it means the fleas. For your next vacation, why not visit lovely Las Pulgas, known to its admirers as the plague spot of the Western world. With its almost 5 miles of major highways, Las Pulgas is a motorist's dream. There is also a network of secondary roads which are less well cared for. This, of course, is one of the major highways. You trailer and camper fans will find Las Pulgas a memorable experience. Even in the rainy season, which lasts roughly from early September to late August, friendly native guides will plan your itinerary to take advantage of the best and safest travel routes. Oobagoobagoo gibby. Yes, trailer folks, in Las Pulgas, you're really in the swim. Into the 2 weeks of the dry season, the natives pack all kinds of festive occasions. This carefree mob, for instance, is on its way to a typical Sunday afternoon activity, stoning the American embassy. The streets of Las Pulgas ring with the happy cry, Yankee go home! Yankee go home! Yankee go home! Yankee go home! Yes, the outstanding quality of the natives is a cheerful, happy disposition. A disposition which makes them an ideal audience for the famed Las Pulgas nightlife. Where else but in Las Pulgas could you find on one stage such outstanding attractions as the world-famous Melody Girls, every one a grandmother, or the marvelous Doily Sisters, famous for being able to balance on a brandy bottle after sharing the bottle between them. For those whose tastes run to exotic foods, Las Pulgas offers a superb choice of 2 restaurants whose cuisine can only be described as remarkable. This is Herman's Seafood Grotto, where dining is a mixture of good food, strolling musicians, and native dancers, who each night bring to life the primitive rhythms of their ancestors.
Put your loving arms way out in space, then you do the eagle rock with style and grace. Put your foot way round and bring it back. Now that's what I call ballin' the jack. Doodly-doodly-doodly-doodly-doodly-doo-doo.
But in any fine restaurant, the food itself makes the most lasting impression. And after dinner here, how often you hear the comment,
"It was the oysters." Oh. Oh.
But this eager group of typical visiting school teachers is about to witness Las Pulgas' chief claim to fame. It's cliff divers, daredevils who plummet hundreds of feet into the ocean. Pretty scary, all right, but this diver seems a little reluctant. Something seems to be wrong. I wonder what he's trying to tell us. But you know school teachers on vacation, they're determined to get their money's worth. Oh, that's what he was trying to tell us. The tide's out. Well, it's been a typical day in Las Pulgas. 2 revolutions, 1 earthquake, and an outbreak of Donga fever. And now as the Vesper bell tolls its placid note, the evening shadows fall, and it's time for the visitor to take his leave. Here on the wharf, a happy band of colorful natives gather to bid him a last farewell. Yes, it is with saddened hearts and tear-filled eyes that we bid a fond oy vey to lovely Las Pulgas. Land of enchantment?
As the host on Fractured Flickers, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you a gentleman as well known for his worldly charm and savoir-faire as for the luxuriant beard, which makes him instantly identifiable to millions. Urbane, debonair, he looks rather like Lenny Bruce's conception of Santa Claus. Referring, of course, to that distinguished actor, Mr. Sabastion Cabot.
Oh, thank you very much. Tell me, Hans, why is it that every portly, bearded actor is always introduced as distinguished?
Oh, I don't know, Sebastian. Perhaps for the very same reason that every fat actor describes himself as portly.
Or that every second-rate announcer on a small-time series describes himself as a host?
Now, if we can dispense with this verbal thrust and parry for a moment, Sebastian, what brings you to Fractured Flickers this evening?
Well, I was at the barber shop next door watching haircuts, but it closed, so here I am. No, Hans, no. Actually, I consider Fractured Flickers one of the 2 most witty, amusing, and entertaining shows on the air.
Oh, that's very nice to hear. What's the other one, please?
Your Social Security in Action.
Really? That's one of my favorites, too.
And the reason I dropped in was to tell you about something that should be of great interest to Fractured Flickers fans.
They finally cleared Fatty Arbuckle.
No, it's even more earth-shaking than that. I have here in this can some film that the world doesn't even know exists.
A new Steve Reeves picture.
Hans, I think this may turn out to be one of the most valuable finds in motion picture history.
Oh, what is it?
This is the undeveloped negative of a one-reel comedy, co-starring Rudolph Valentino and Greta Garbo.
No, I never knew they made a picture together.
Well, for some reason, it was suppressed. It was only by accident that the film was found at all.
Oh, are we going to see it?
Oh, not tonight, certainly. You see, the film hasn't been developed yet. I'm terrified that it might get scratched or light-struck. It's the only copy. I'm flying in one of the finest technicians in the world to handle the whole thing.
Well, how exciting. You must be thrilled.
To say the least. Well, do you realize what a film like this is worth? Movie fans all over the world will queue up to see it.
Well, it could make you a very wealthy man.
Yes, it could, but I don't plan to use this film for my own profit. After all, it was only the merest chance that put it into my hands. No. Now, I plan to turn over the entire proceeds from this picture to a non-profit foundation.
Oh, what kind of foundation?
Well, it will be a foundation set up to give scholarships for developing new cinematic talent. Writers, directors, actors, to inject new blood into the motion picture industry. It might even help to start a film renaissance of sorts.
What an exciting idea.
And this small can of undeveloped film will help turn that dream into a reality.
May I?
Of course.
Thank you.
Sorry, Sebastian.
Sorry, but... Well, that's showbiz, Sebastian. Let's watch the next flicker,
It all began when Marvin Detweiler looked into the mirror and with a straight face, almost, decided to quit smoking. There were good reasons for Marvin's decision. For one thing, he discovered he had brown eyes in the part that was supposed to be white. For another, he had just read a report by 5 New York doctors who had studied the effects of smoking on their patients. They were unanimous in their decision.
Smoking reflects a basic insecurity. Doesn't it, Mama?
Smoking ruins the digestion.
It stunts your growth.
Right, Shorty, and it's bad for the throat.
It's a fire hazard, too.
This sound medical advice was just what Marvin Detweiler needed. At 12:20, he stopped smoking. He suffered. He was in agony. He sweated. He died 1,000 deaths. But at last, it was 1:15. Next morning, at a large advertising agency on Madison Avenue.
A meeting at 11:30 a.m., practically the middle of the night. What's it all about?
Another guy's given up smoking. Let me punch in. The meeting's about to start.
Ladies and gentlemen, since many of you may be unfamiliar with the language of Madison Avenue, the following sequence will have subtitles in English.
Well, team, I guess you might say the ball's in my court. Now, I'm sure that all of us ad execs and media people for the big tobacco billings have touched all four bases crisis-wise in the past few days and are all ready for the big rhubarb at home plate. Now, once more, our most cherished institutions are under attack. See? Now, this misguided dupe wants to stop smoking. I can only leave it to your imaginations to see what this could do to one of our biggest American industries. Tomorrow, this might be a tobacco warehouse. This might be a blending shed. And this might be your place in Westport. And I think you ought to know that the president of our company, J. Bay himself, is taking a personal interest in this.
And so, while Marvin Detweiler calmly faced the prospect of another day without a cigarette, the subtle psychological know-how of Madison Avenue was focused directly on him.
What complicates the problem is that Detweiler won't turn on his radio or television set anymore, and he's canceled his subscription to all magazines that carry our cigarette ads.
Well, it seems to me that to do a well-rounded job on him, we're going to have to plant a transistor radio on him somewhere. But where?
Why not put it in his hat?
J.B., you old fox, that's it.
The agency immediately enlisted the skills of some of the nation's top-flight electronics experts, so that from that time on, whenever Marvin wore his hat, he always heard little persuasive voices saying,
Get filter pleasure with your leisure, the golden treasure way hot arrow. Light a fag and take a drag and smoke your cares away.
Hey, waiter, would you mind turning off the radio?
It's not on, sir.
Oh.
For deep down satisfaction, why not light up right now? That very first delicious puff will tell you what you've been missing. Puff, 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 and watch the smoke rings rise. You know you'll find true happiness when smoke gets in your eyes.
would Marvin start smoking again? Or would he just drink heavily instead?
To add to your enjoyment of any meal, light up a cigarette. Filter mild and tasty, the best tobacco yet. Just relax and settle back for a treat you won't forget.
Yes, men who are men and not namby-pamby cowards know how much a good smoke really means.
Soon Marvin's nerves were at the breaking point. The slightest sound made him jumpy.
I've got to find something to take my mind off cigarettes. But what?
Well, first Marvin tried eating fruit instead of smoking. All that happened was that he got a skin rash from too many strawberries. He tried paying more attention to girls. Unfortunately, it didn't take his mind off smoking.
Sure beats strawberries, though.
Finally, Marvin Detweiler snapped his cap completely and took to living in a root cellar, just he and his fink hat.
2 cigarettes in the dark.
And then suddenly, Marvin reached a decision.
What I need is a hobby. I could collect something. But what?
Then it came to him in a flash.
I've got it.
Yes, at that moment, Marvin organized the Detweiler Collecting Society, which is still in operation today. Yes, even now, Marvin Detweiler still doesn't smoke. And of course, the American tobacco industry is in ruins. And if you ever visit Marvin in his palatial quarters at the State Funny Farm and ask him nicely, maybe he'll show you the collection of which he is so proud.
Why not? It's the biggest collection of them in the whole wide world. No buts about it.
Fractured flickers. Why do I always want to say fractured frickers? Well, anyway, fractured frickers has been accused recently of living too much in the past, of an unhealthy preoccupation with bygone days. So tonight we bring you our ringing answer to such carping criticism, the first in a series of hard-hitting, up-to-the-minute reports on the burning issues and controversial personalities of our time, as Fractured Flickers presents the 19th century.
This is your host, Bronker Waltite, with 19th Century. I'll be back in a moment with the story of the remarkable Grover S. Tweet, man of mystery, man of 1,000 predictions. But first, a word from the Brudenko Insurance Company of America.
Oh, good evening, folks. Say, I think it's a shame that you should pay the same insurance rates as poor drivers, when with a Brudenko policy you enjoy the benefits of being insured with drivers just like yourselves. Like, Crash Cranston of Wheaton, Illinois, seen here on a normal driving day. Or Maud Narkle of Fester, Colorado, who narrowly but skillfully avoided a thoughtless pedestrian. Yes, when you see this rock, Brudenko's famous trademark, you'll know you won't have to pay the same as poor drivers. You'll have to pay the same as abominable drivers.
Bronker Waltite again with the story of Grover S. Tweet, the great predictor. Our story begins at Kitty Hawk, when Grover S. Tweet sent this letter to the Wright brothers.
On this auspicious occasion, there is only one thing to say to you aerial pioneers. It'll never get off the ground.
Grover Tweet went on from there to political predictions when in 1906 he said, Theodore Roosevelt will be the last Roosevelt to occupy the White House. The real dynasty will be built on the William Jennings Bryan family. Bryan will be elected by a landslide, and the Bryan name will dominate the century. A fantastic prediction. But this late model Cassandra didn't limit himself to events on this side of the ocean. On a European trip in 1914, Tweet told the German Kaiser, victory is sure to be yours. Congratulations. Then he sent these films back to America aboard the Lusitania. More in a minute, but first a word from Brudenko.
Say, here's a thrill, folks. Recently in Westport, Connecticut, we recorded an actual interview between a policyholder and his friendly Brudenko agent.
Would you tell us, Mr. Clump, how you feel about your Brudenko policy?
Certainly. I am completely covered.
Yes, I noticed, by a bat suit. But what about your policy?
You think it should be extended?
The policy?
No, the bat suit.
Mr. Clump, millions are waiting for you to say something about Brudenko.
Just see that they pay! And now, back to Cronker Waltite.
Now, more in the life of the remarkable What's-His-Name. From Lakehurst, New Jersey in 1937 came one of the most outstanding predictions of our time. Airships like the Hindenburg, said Grover Tweet, are so safe I wouldn't travel any other way. This means the end of heavier-than-air craft. Unfortunately, Tweet was unable to be aboard the Hindenburg that day because of his duties at the Alf Landon for President headquarters. But he did record one more uncanny prediction.
I predict that with my Brudenko life savings plan, I can look forward to an old age of comfort and indeed luxury. Inflation is impossible.
And now, 25 years later, the first time ever to appear on camera, the remarkable Grover S. Tweet.
I predict that the next big fads to sweep the country will be abject poverty and long hair for men.
Thank you, Mr. Tweet, and good night from Brudenko and 19th Century.
Well, the clock on the wall says it's time for us to leave. Actually, all it says is tick-tock, but you get the idea.
1, 2.
We are proud to announce that Fractured Flickers has been selected to be buried in the time capsule at the New York World's Fair. What's that? Oh, excuse me, our producer has been selected to be buried in the time capsule of the New York World's Fair.